It's true. I deeply like you. You are unlike anyone else, and you've awakened a feeling within me that I've never known before. I long to be with you for the rest of my life. The girls sat in the dimly lit room, shivering, their eyes wide with fear, uncertain of what the future held for them. They had been kidnapped by the country's most notorious mafia boss, Antonio. Ruthless and feared, Antonio was a man who tolerated no defiance. Disobedience often ended in blood. He drank heavily, surrounded himself with women, and lived in constant indulgence, yet he had never married. Why would he, when he already had everything he desired? I lifted my head and glanced at the clock ticking on the wall. My eyes shifted to the other terrified girls, each one trembling just like me. My name is Natasha, and I had no idea how I ended up here. But here I was, waiting for death, or worse. Yet strangely, I wasn't afraid. A part of me had already surrendered to whatever was coming. Antonio rarely dirtied his own hands. He left the bloodshed to his men while he enjoyed his luxuries. Suddenly, two guards grabbed my arms and pulled me forward. My heart pounded, but my face remained still. Soon after, Antonio entered the room. His gaze locked on me, studying me from head to toe with an unsettling intensity. Who is this one?" he asked, his lips curling as he bit them slightly. "Boss, we're transferring her," one of the men replied. "No," Antonio interrupted, his voice cold yet amused. "Leave this one. I think I'd like to play with this puppet for a while." "Aaliyah!" he called out, and a woman stepped forward, clearly one of his personal toys. "Take her, dress her for me." Disgust and nausea twisted in my stomach, but I kept my head down. If Antonio's attention meant a chance at survival, I had no choice but to endure. Aaliyah clasped my hand and led me to another room filled with girls who wore the same hollow expression of defeat. She handed me a crimson, seductive dress and ordered me to change after I bathed. With no other option, I obeyed. Later, I found myself in Antonio's lavish suite, waiting anxiously. My eyes grew heavy, and I unknowingly drifted into sleep. When I awoke, he was standing there, watching me. "Why did you stand up?" he asked with a sly smile. "You looked marvelous while you slept." I forced a nervous smile as he stepped closer, taking my hand in his. "I'm serious," he murmured. "You're different from any woman I've ever met. What's your name?" I hesitated, unsure if he meant a word of it. Yet when I looked into his eyes, I caught a flicker of something unfamiliar, something dangerously close to affection. "I'm Natasha," I whispered. "Well, Natasha," he said softly, pressing a kiss to my hand. "If you accept, you could be my queen. Together, we could rule." I could hardly believe his words. How could such a cunning, merciless man change overnight, just from meeting an ordinary girl like me? And yet, he didn't let go of my hand. That night, against all reason, we ended up together. The next morning, Antonio shocked everyone by announcing that I was his girlfriend. His workers exchanged stunned glances. They knew him well enough to understand how unusual this was. Antonio never formed attachments. He used women for pleasure, never affection. That very day, his younger brother, Haynes, who was just as notorious and ruthless as Antonio, stormed into the mansion, furious. Word had reached him that his brother was being fooled by an ordinary girl, and he wasn't going to tolerate it. I watched helplessly as the two brothers clashed. Their fight was brutal. Fists flew, furniture shattered, and blood stained the floor. My heart pounded as I stood frozen, powerless to stop them. When it was finally over, both men were battered and bruised. I hurried to Antonio's side, gently dabbing the blood from his face with a towel soaked in warm water. He managed a faint smile as I tended to him, and for a moment his hardened expression softened. Later, I went to the kitchen to prepare him a meal, only to find Haynes waiting there, his eyes sharp and filled with disdain. "I know exactly what kind of girl you are," he sneered. "A gold digger. Everyone thinks my brother is taking advantage of you, but in reality, it's the other way around. I'll be watching you." I bit my tongue and ignored him, refusing to let his words pierce me. Instead, I finished the meal and carried it to Antonio, who accepted it with a rare warmth in his gaze. That night passed uneventfully, though an unshakable tension lingered in the air. By morning, Antonio had left the house, no doubt off to deal with his darker affairs. That same day, I saw groups of terrified young girls being dragged into the mansion. My chest tightened painfully for them. If Antonio hadn't taken a liking to me, I would have shared their grim fate. Later, I returned to my room, stripped off my clothes, and stepped into the bathroom. Just as I was about to shower, I realized I had forgotten my shampoo. Annoyed, I wrapped a towel around myself and walked back out, only to freeze in shock. Haynes was standing in my room, his eyes glinting with malice. "What the hell are you doing here?" I shouted. He smirked. "I was right about you. You're cunning, nothing but a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'll expose you. But before that..." His gaze slid over me from head to toe, and I could tell exactly what he was thinking. "Don't come closer," I warned, stepping back. But he ignored me, advancing with predatory intent. His hand reached out, grazing my skin, and I let out a choked cry. Panic consumed me, until the door burst open. Antonio stood there, his face twisted in fury. Without hesitation, he lunged at Haynes, landing a violent punch. The brothers erupted into a savage brawl once more, fists and curses flying, the air thick with rage. Then, a deafening gunshot shattered the room. I squeezed my eyes shut, trembling. When I dared to open them, I gasped in horror. Haynes lay on the floor, lifeless. Antonio was standing over him, the smoking gun still in his hand. He had killed his own brother, for me. I looked up at him, my eyes locking onto his. In his gaze, I didn't just see fury. I saw something darker, something terrifyingly intense. As they say, eyes don't lie. Antonio's gaze was drenched in guilt, but he said nothing. He simply stood, turned, and left. God knows where. I sat trembling, frozen in place, as some of Antonio's men came to carry away Haynes's lifeless body. They hauled him like he was nothing more than an animal. Their eyes burned into me with pure hatred. I knew what they were thinking. To them, it was all my fault. From that day, Antonio was never the same. He drowned himself in liquor and drugs more than ever before. I tried to comfort him, but nothing I did mattered. His torment only deepened, until one day, his body finally gave up. He collapsed. A doctor was called, but her verdict was cold and final. Antonio was dead. The news shattered the mansion. His men mourned, grief weighing down every corner of the house. Well, everyone but me. I laughed. Yes, laughed. Ha ha ha. You may wonder why. The answer is simple. Everyone has their purpose, their motive. They all believed I was just another victim, abducted by a monster. But the truth? I chose to be here. I placed myself among the prey to complete the mission I had sworn years ago. 4 years earlier, my sister Olivia had been kidnapped by a Mafia boss. They demanded a ransom we couldn't pay. When we failed, they butchered her without mercy and left her corpse on the street like discarded trash. We went to the police. But in a world built on bribes and corruption, her case was buried, forgotten. My mother, unable to bear the loss, suffered a fatal heart attack. I was left alone, broken, consumed with rage. From that moment, I vowed her death would not go unanswered. My investigation led me to the one responsible, Antonio. I spent months stalking him, hacking his operations, and studying his every move. Eventually, I discovered his next abduction plan. That's when I positioned myself in the targeted area, deliberately vulnerable, knowing his men would snatch me. Everyone thought I was unlucky. In reality, I was in control. My original goal was simple: kill Antonio, even if it cost me my life. But fate made things easier. The beast was interested in me. I twisted that obsession to my advantage. Haynes was the first pawn. I lured him into suspicion by fake calling near his room, pretending I had evidence that could destroy Antonio. Haynes, foolish and impulsive, took the bait. Then I seduced him, stripping away his reason so that when Antonio returned, their clash was inevitable. Did I try to stop their fight that day? Did I call for help? I wanted them to tear each other apart. But Antonio survived, so I changed my plan. I began poisoning him slowly, tiny doses so subtle that no doctor would suspect anything beyond drug abuse. After all, Antonio already lived under the shadow of his vices, and now he's gone. No one suspects me. The real question is, what happens next? His men are loyal beyond reason. Will they bow to me out of respect for his legacy? And if they do, what am I going to become? I turned toward the mirror, watching my reflection. A slow, cold smirk curved across my lips.